Well, welcome to a new Team CGC 9.8 video. So for today's video, I wanted to ask the team, what is the next CGC 9.8 comic book that I should buy? Yeah, so how I sort of broke down the video here is I got 6 CGC 9.8 comic books that I want. And we'll have a look on the census and look at the pricing information and everything like we normally do. But after that, just let me know in the comments below what of the 6 you think I should buy. And even if there's like another comic that you think I should buy, you could let me know in the comments below for sure. But what I want to do after that too is just give you a bit of a sneak peek of my newest 9.8 purchase. Yeah, this is a book I purchased about 3 days ago, I think now. Really cool, modern first appearance. And the package is coming from the United States, so that unbox video is not going to be probably for about a month. So I thought it would be cool just to give you a little sneak peek of my newest purchase as well on this type of video. So let's get right into the short list of 6 comic books, CGC 9.8s that I want. And certainly let me know in the comments below what your favorite ones are. So first on the list here is a Captain America number 6. Yeah, this is the first full appearance of Winter Soldier. A really cool modern book that I've mentioned in the past that I really want. So having a look on the census here, there's 311 CGC 9.8s in the blue label. One thing to note here, this is the cover with Captain America on the cover. There's a very similar looking cover where it's a variant with a Winter Soldier on the cover. Looks really similar though. They're actually about the same price, and this Captain America one has 311 in the CGC 9.8. That Winter Soldier variant cover has it's like 240 something in the 9.8. But very similar 9.8 ratios, so they're about the same rarity and price. But personally, I kind of prefer the one with Captain America on the cover, even though this is like first full Winter Soldier, but I just like the Captain America cover a little bit better. So for the first print Captain America cover, there's 311 CGC 9.8s in the blue label. 51.4% is the CGC 9.8 ratio. So of all graded copies, 51.4% of them are CGC 9.8s. So not particularly rare, this book, like over half of them are 9.8s of all graded copies are 9.8s. So Captain America number 6, first full appearance of Winter Soldier. I was sort of turned on to this book from my nephew who is 6 years old, and he really loves the Winter Soldier. And, you know, he's really into the sort of Avengers movies, and he likes Wolverine too. But he really likes Winter Soldier, and that kind of took me by surprise, because, you know, and I was definitely turned on to this book after that, because I think these kids, you know, they're not thinking, like, what's going to be the next hot comic book or anything like that. They're just like, what's the coolest thing possible, and, like, that's what I'm going to like. And, yeah, for my nephew, he is really liking the Winter Soldier. And I mentioned this on a video. I think that's kind of a pretty decent strategy, you know, listen to what these kids are really liking, and might give you a little bit of insight. So Captain America, after that, it was really one that I drilled down that I really wanted. Yeah, Captain America number 6 in the CGC 9.8. Let's talk about pricing here. So for, I have saw some completed listings for this book right around like $179.99, $180 for Captain America number 6. The first print too. We'll talk about that variant because the pricings are very similar on them. But I think for the first print, Captain America number 6, you know, 180, maybe the lower end of fair market value, just to over 200. I think the higher end of fair market value for a Captain America number 6 in the first print. That variant tends to be like, you know, maybe let's call it 10% more. So maybe the lower end of fair market value for the Winter Soldier variant is 200, and maybe, you know, maybe up to 240. Someone would pay for that if they really, really wanted it. But I think Captain America number 6 is a really good modern book, you know, great modern first appearance to want and to consider. And it's affordable too. Yeah, it's not one that's super rare, that's super expensive, but yeah, like I said, with my nephew, they're really liking the Winter Soldier. I think there's some future potential there with Winter Soldier that maybe I'm overlooking because, you know, I'm just not right into the movies and right into thinking about what's the coolest thing out there, which my nephew certainly is, I would think. So Captain America number 6, first full appearance of Winter Soldier, is one I want and one to consider. Alright, next book here is a Spawn number 306. Yeah, this one though is the Gunslinger McFarlane variant I want to talk about, where he's smoking a little cigarette on the cover. I just think this cover is like such a classic McFarlane cover that he just nailed, and it really kind of harkens back to some, 90s McFarlane covers of Spawn, I think, too. Yeah, and this was one, like, as soon as I initially saw it, I was like, oh, I want this one. Like, just a really cool Todd McFarlane cover that you can get for a pretty decent price, too. So I think it's one to want for sure. Looking on the census this morning for Spawn 306 McFarlane variant, there's 44 CGC 9.8s, and 93.6% is the 9.8 ratio. So almost all of them sent in are 9.8, so not really rare, this one or anything. Now, I'm kind of hitting myself on this one because this is one I want, and I've been periodically doing searches for it and things like that. But like 3-4 days ago, one ended on an auction in Canada that sold for $102.50. So if I was aware of that auction, I would have bid on that. So $102.50 I think is a fantastic price for this book. When it first kind of hit about 3 months ago, I would say, a couple of them sort of went for like $120, and I think the hype was, people were really loving this cover when it first came out. So I think $102.50 in that auction that just ended. I wish I saw it, but I didn't. But I think that's a fantastic price for this book. Yeah, Spawn 306, the McFarlane variant, smoking a little cigarette, the gunslinger Spawn on the cover for $102.50 is just a book that I want. And yeah, I hope, hopefully an auction pops up in Canada that I can get it near that fair price. Because, yeah, so far, obviously I don't have this book. So far, every book, every one that I've saw in the CGC 9.8 is just really expensive shipping coming from the U.S. Or it's just like, $179.99, buy it now kind of thing, which I just think is too much for a book like this. So, yeah, I'll have to be patient on Spawn 306, but one I want, and hopefully right around $102.50. For Spawn 306 McFarlane variant. Yeah, next book is a classic 80s book that I still don't have, and yeah, I think I really want this one. It's a Tale of the Teen Titans number 44. This is when Dick Grayson becomes Nightwing, so the first Nightwing, big DC key of the 80s for sure. There's 939 CGC 9.8s on the census in the blue label, so one of 939, a popular DC key of the 80s. Yeah, this is one that's not really underfollowed, it's just first Nightwing, a lot of DC fans just want this one for sure, for good reason. And 9.8 ratio, 24.2% of all graded copies are 9.8. And that's a nice, a really nice 9.8 ratio, especially when you consider the price for this book. I think it's even looking better, because that's, it's not super rare, not super rare for the 80s, but a decent 9.8 ratio. And yeah, I think when you look at the price, as I said, makes it really shows the value, I think. So price for this one, I just saw an auction end in the last few days here for $285. And in an auction, I mean, that's a pretty expensive for this book. I've certainly in the last 6 months here, I've saw this book go for under $250 in an auction. Yeah, sort of my general feeling was like a fair price for this one was like $225, maybe $240. But didn't really go over $250 too much, but the 9.8 market's so hot right now, it kind of makes sense that this would, peak over $250 with it being such a big key. Yeah, first, Nightwing, Dick Grayson becomes Nightwing in this one. So $285 with an auction ending. I think if you're super patient, maybe you get it closer to $250. But in this environment, yeah, if you want it right now, probably $285 up to $300 for this book. And yeah, this is one I mentioned on videos in the past as being kind of a great, affordable, undervalued one. And yeah, one I've considered many times and watched many auctions, but just kind of never pulled the trigger on this one. But a classic DC worth considering. Absolutely. A classic DC key worth considering. So the next one here is Kanan, the Last Padawan, number 1. Yeah, this is a really cool Star Wars book that I've just sort of been recently turned on to. And I have bought 2 of this book in the raw. So I have 2 of them in the raw, looking pretty good too, in pretty decent shape. But in the 9.8, interesting book, because it is, pretty underfollowed like most modern Star Wars books, but a lot of first appearances that I think have a lot of potential. But there are 68 CGC 9.8s in the blue label out there. So 1 of 68 for this one. A pretty great collector item, I think. The 9.8 ratio, 70.1%. So of all graded copies, 70.1% of them are CGC 9.8s. And that's pretty normal and average for a modern book. Yeah, I wouldn't say that's like super rare or anything like that, but it's sort of more about the 1 of 68 collector item, being that this book's so underfollowed right now. But it being underfollowed, there's still a bit of a cult for this book, for sure, because the last auction that I saw it go for was $306 in the CGC 9.8. Yeah, an auction went for, final price was $306. US dollars, all the prices here, for Kanan, the Last Padawan. And in Kanan, the Last Padawan, you get like the first appearance of, Kanan Jarrus, I'm probably saying his name wrong. Ezra Bridger, there's Sabine Wren, there's what is it, Hera, Syndulla, I think it is. Orrelios, yeah, that's the other one, Zeb Orrelios, who's kind of a cool, definitely a cool, kind of muscly kind of Star Wars character. But yeah, you get a lot of first appearances here, and it sort of reminds me of the Clone Wars #1, the first appearance of Ahsoka Tano. Similar book, to that book, but sort of before it was discovered, because obviously that book is extreme. That's one of the hottest books right now, the Clone Wars #1, with Ahsoka Tano being in The Mandalorian Season 2. But with Kanan, Last Padawan #1, the sort of hype around this book right now is that Sabine Wren, who is kind of a Mandalorian character, and she's really young, and she's kind of like a bomb expert, and kind of has a Jedi heritage too, Wren does. She may possibly be in Mandalorian 2. I don't think there's been Season 2. I don't think there's been confirmations of it yet, like Ahsoka Tano, but yeah, this could just be one book to consider for sure with, Disney MCU has the Star Wars name now, and they purchased Star Wars quite a while ago now, but you can really expect for the next 20 or 30 years to be a Star Wars movie every year at least, like very similar to how the Marvel movies are just one after the other. So with all the first appearances in this Kanan, the Last Padawan, and really cool characters, I think too, that are really popular, kind of have that cult following in the Star Wars, among the Star Wars community, but really has that potential to kind of go mainstream with any one of these characters, I think. So, yeah, Kanan, Last Padawan #1, the CGC 9.8, is a Star Wars book that I've been targeting to possibly buy. And yeah, I think it does have a lot of potential with all those kind of first appearances. And, but yeah, hopefully, because that recent auction ending around $306, I had certainly saw in the past this book around $250. So maybe if you're patient here and you wait for the Wren sort of rumors to maybe calm down a bit, and you can get it closer to $250, but still might be one worth just getting in there now, because that ultimate potential is the Clone Wars #1, and Clone Wars #1 in the 9.8 is like $700-800 maybe right now if you get a good deal on that. So I think that's the ultimate potential of this book, possibly, if one of these characters, gets a push in one of, an MCU Star Wars movie or the Mandalorian show or whatever it might be. But Kanan, the Last Padawan #1 is one I've been considering and one I want, and yeah, certainly, I've been looking at a lot of auctions and almost pulled the trigger, but just haven't yet, but one I want for sure. Okay, yeah, the next book is a really cool one that I've sort of just I think the last couple weeks realized I think I want this one, because it just goes really good with my collection. So it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 95. And I want to talk about the SDCC variant, so the San Diego Comic-Con variant. And we'll look on the census really quick for this one. This is the first appearance of not the first appearance. This is when Jennika becomes a Ninja Turtle for the first time. So the first time there's kind of a 5th Ninja Turtle. In this issue, she gets Leonardo's blood transfused into her, and she kind of turns into a Ninja Turtle, which I think was a pretty cool story and a way of doing it. But on the census for this SDCC variant for TMNT 95, there's 62 CGC 9.8s in the blue label. So this is a limited book. I'm pretty sure there was only 200 printed. It's one of those kind of limited variants of the, first Jennika, when Jennika becomes a Ninja Turtle. The ratio, 91.2% of all graded copies are 9.8. So basically anyone sending this in to CGC just kept it in great shape and thought it was a 9.8, so they're basically 91.2% of them, of all the graded copies, are 9.8, so not really particularly rare. More about that 1 of 62, given that there's only 200 ever of this book printed ever. You're kind of more focusing on that, I think, with this book. So, having a look at some completed listings, and I don't know if it's heating up a little bit, but there's quite a bit of a difference between like some of the ones that just ended in the last month and then some of the ones that ended like 2 to 3 months ago. Most of the completed listings are signed that I was seeing. In fact, I didn't see any completed listings on eBay for the Blue Label one. I know I've saw them in the past, and I'll kind of reference some of those prices, but the ones that I saw actually completed listings, signed and sketched by Kevin Eastman. One went for $676, signed and sketched by Kevin Eastman, and another one I saw went for $405. I think the $676 one, like, he had like, it was a sign and sketch where he drew the yellow bandana on her, so it was like a pretty intensive sketch, so I think that's why it went a little bit, for $676, I think is near the higher end for this book, even signed. $405, a really good price signed, I think. I think that's probably rock bottom on a signed copy of this book, the SDCC variant. Because in the Blue Label, I have saw this book go for, in a buy it now, for $399.99 before. And I think, right around that sort of $405 for the signed one. So I think that $405 is a really good deal for a signed one. If you're really patient on a Blue Label, not signed, I think you can get this one right around $350. And you know what? I think that's a pretty fair price. I think, given that there's only 200 of these, Fifth Ninja Turtle, I've said in the past that I think that's a really big idea, a big deal. And, it's one that it fits right into my collection because I do have a lot of kind of the first prints of TMNT 95 and a couple of other Jennika keys. And first appearance of Jennika, which is TMNT 51. I got a couple of those in the 9.8 too. 3 of them actually in the 9.8. So yeah, this one just fits right into my collection, and hopefully I would look to get it around $350 in a Blue Label. Yeah, I don't think maybe if I could, one popped up in Canada and it was signed and it was in an auction and I can grab it near $400. Maybe I would go for a signed one. But ideally, maybe about $350 for a Blue Label, I think, is kind of more my style, I think. But yeah, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 95, Jennika becomes a Ninja Turtle in this one. Yeah, I think it just fits right into my collection. I think this more rare variant is one worth considering for me. Okay, last book here of the 6 that I'm considering that maybe I should buy. Last one here is an Amazing Spider-Man number 210. Yeah, so this is the first appearance of Madam Webb. Periodically on the channel I've sort of mentioned that I've got outbid on this comic before in the 9.8. I think there was one that went for a decent price that I didn't bid on, and I was kind of hitting myself for that. So we'll get into some of the pricing in a second here, but Amazing Spider-Man 210, first appearance of Madam Webb. There's 125 CGC 9.8s out there in the Blue Label, and 15.4% is the CGC 9.8 ratio. So of all graded copies, 15.4% of them are 9.8s. And the thing about this book is it really heated up with last year. There was an announcement that Madam Webb is going to get her own Disney Plus series or something like that. And I don't know if it was confirmed or if it was rumors, but this book really kind of took off in price. Although, it was a pretty well-wanted book. And I remember I wanted this book before that announcement ever happened. And back then there used to be 80 on the census. It was kind of one of those underfollowed first appearances that was still pretty expensive in the 9.8. But just seeing a completed listing end here in the last little bit for a really nice looking one in a new case, CGC 9.8 white pages, it went for $701. So this, I mean, that feels like it's heating up again a little bit because, right after that announcement last year, there were a couple auctions that I got outbid on that had went for $725, $750. And, I think I was bidding $675-ish on those. And I'm kind of glad I didn't win them, to be honest, because I think it was sort of right after that announcement I was getting a little bit excited. But, because, one just going for 701 in the last couple weeks here, I think maybe it was 2-3 months ago. Yeah, I mentioned that one. That went, it was 560 maybe, or 550, right around that. We'll just say right around 550 it was. And it was a CGC 9.8 in an auction. I was watching it. I didn't bid on it, but I was like, yeah, wow, that was probably the one where, you can get it closer to the lower end of fair market value, which I think right now is probably about 550 to 600. Yeah, I think the market's heated up a bit, so I think that 550 is going to be pretty tough on this one. probably 600 is your lower end. 701, a little bit of higher end, but the one that went for 701 was like perfectly centered. It was a direct edition, but perfectly centered, looking great. Yeah, it really kind of stuck out as it was looking really good. And I thought of bidding, but I didn't. And I wouldn't have won it with it going for over 700. But Amazing Spider-Man 210 is one of those comics with just 125 out there, so you kind of get a one of 125 collector item. First appearance of Madam Webb. If that Disney Plus series does amazing, who knows, maybe they bring her into a movie and keep going with her, and I think that's certainly a possibility. An awesome cover on this one, too. I mentioned I wanted this before the announcement of the Madam Webb series, and I was kind of pissed when they made that announcement, because I'm like, damn, like, now all these 9.8s are going to be so expensive now, but it just has a really cool cover. I love this cover. Yeah, so, one to consider, but pretty expensive now. Maybe a bit tougher to kind of get a better deal on this one. But, if you think that might be the one that you think I want to buy, definitely let me know in the comments. Yeah, so I'll leave a full list in the description below of the 6 that we talked about. And certainly any other book that you think I should buy, let me know in the comments, too. Just kind of want to get some feedback from the team, for sure. So let's get into the sneak peek of my new CGC 9.8 comic book that I bought. Yeah, just a couple days ago, I bought it directly off of Instagram from someone on the team. Yeah, Dwayne, who's DLE Comics on the team here, bought from him. And he's in the States, so again, it's going to ship to Canada here, so it probably won't be an unbox for about a month. But I purchased a Superman Batman Annual 4 in the CGC 9.8. So yeah, this is the first appearance of Batman Beyond in the DC continuity. So, I brought out, you're probably wondering why I brought out kind of my Batman Beyond number ones. This is the first appearance of Batman Beyond kind of overall in comic books. This one's certainly one you want. It's really hot right now with a lot of Batman Beyond movie rumors and things like that. But Superman Batman Annual 4, first Batman Beyond in DC continuity. I'm surprised it really hasn't heated up quite as much as, this book. And obviously I don't think it's, should be the same price or anything, because there's certainly differences with the books. But pretty surprised it hadn't heated up, and I think I got a decent price for it. So, just look on the census really quick. There's only 51 CGC 9.8s of this book. Yeah. Superman Batman Annual number 4, only 51 of them out there. I think that's really positive for the book. And another positive thing, this is a modern book, so the 9.8 ratio is 45.5%. So of all graded copies, 45.5% of them are CGC 9.8s. And with only 51 9.8s, I would expect that there should be a lot more of these books being graded in the future here coming up. This is kind of an up-and-coming, a bit of an underappreciated book. So much so that on the CGC label, there's no, first appearance of Batman Beyond in DC. It's just a blank label. But according to my research, this is. So hopefully it is. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, for sure. But the 45.5% 9.8 ratio is pretty good for a book that's a modern book that hasn't had many graded. So I think the more of these that come on graded, that 9.8 ratio could possibly get into the 30 percentages. In this one, it's 37%-ish. I'm just kind of off the top of my head. This 9.8 ratio is about 37% of all graded copies are 9.8. So I think this book could kind of get near this book in the 9.8 rarity over time as more become graded. So I think that's a bit of a positive. That's kind of a minor detail. And given that, we'll talk about price here. I paid $275 plus $25 shipping from Dwayne on Instagram there. So kind of all in $300 for this book. But there was one on eBay for $325, buy it now, that had really expensive shipping to me, but I may have purchased that book, if the shipping was good to Canada, I probably would have purchased that book 2 months ago. So I think I got a pretty good deal on this one. I think $275 is bang on fair market value. That is pretty much the fair value for this book. I've saw quite a few of these sort of sell for that, $279.99, $275, maybe the lower end of the fair market value 6 to 12 months ago was around $250, maybe $225-ish, but in this market I think $275 is bang on fair, and it's going to be really hard to get anything lower than that. But yeah, I purchased a Superman Batman Annual number 4. Really happy I did. I think this book's got a lot of potential. At $275, if over time, you know, Batman Beyond just seems to be getting more popular as the days go by, and if that 9.8 ratio gets pretty close to this one, this book right now, a lot selling for about $1,000. I remember 3 of them sold really quick there for like $960, like all sold in like a day. So they're getting gobbled up under $1,000 in the 9.8 Batman Beyond number 1, and there's only 190 of these or something like that in the 9.8. Superman Batman Annual number 4, 51 9.8s with a decent 9.8 ratio. Yeah, I think as more time goes on and that 9.8 ratio maybe ticks below into the 30s, so it's getting more rare as time goes on, I think you could see this book, you know, 400 to 450 would make sense. Maybe even higher than that, given how well this book has done. Like, yeah, it's just, I've always loved Batman Beyond. I love the cartoon, but there really is, Batman Beyond is really picking up in popularity here in the last 6 months compared to what it was before. I've really noticed anyway. So yeah, I was just still kind of surprised that I could get, the Superman Batman Annual number 4 for $275 still. I think that's a decent price. And, you know, it's a hero. Like, I sort of compare it to Batman Harley Quinn. That's Harley Quinn's first appearance in DC continuity. We had documented where that book had sold for $450 on our last pricing video, and that was a bit of an overpay. I think $350 is probably a little more fair for that book. But this compares really well to that, because this, one selling for $350, the Batman Harley Quinn, me getting the Superman Batman Annual 4 for $275. I think this is preferred over that because there's less 9.8s on the census. Another reason why I think it's preferred over Batman Harley Quinn is Batman Beyond is a hero, Harley Quinn's a villain, and always heroes I think have more potential over time than villains. So with Batman Harley Quinn kind of going for $350, I think a fair value for this book is like $350 about, even though I got mine for $275. And I think the potential's there for it to even get to like $450 or $500 because it is a hero. And a Stanley Lau cover too, Art Germ, who's like a really popular modern artist. The cover's really cool too, so you kind of get that as well. And yeah, you know what? Definitely almost couldn't wait until an unbox here in the next month for this one. So definitely kind of wanted to give you a sneak peek on that. And I think I got a pretty good deal on a book that I think is underfollowed. And I'm really surprised it hasn't blown up more since this one has blown up so much, and Batman Beyond seems so popular right now. Okay, that'll be it for the video here. I want to get into some top picks really quick of the 6 that I initially mentioned. So, you know what? The first thing to say is I pretty much want them all. Like, it was really hard to just kind of pick 1 or 2, or a top 3 I ended up doing for top picks, but did get 3 top picks here. First one is Spawn 306. Yeah, I think for right now, maybe I'm not looking to spend like a lot of money on a comic book right now because, I purchased quite a lot in the last, bunch of years here. So I think Spawn 306 for that $102.50, the McFarlane Gunslinger variant, I saw that completed listing. Right around that price, I think Spawn 306 is one I really want to buy, hopefully in the next, month or 2, whatever it might be. Second top pick, Kanan the Last Padawan, number 1. Yeah, I think just given how that Clone Wars book just blew up so much, I think there's a lot of potential with this book. And, on top of that, I think it's just a cool book with a lot of cool first appearances. And I'm getting more into the newer Star Wars books. Admittedly, I was just all about the sort of original Marvel Comics Star Wars run. And I got the Star Wars number 1, 9.8, and Star Wars 42. Like, those are all great, too. But I'm getting more into the modern books, and I think this one is a high potential CGC 9.8 with all those first appearances, and with MCU owning Star Wars now, and there's going to be like 50 Star Wars movies in the next 30 years or whatever it is. So I'm almost, you'd almost bet that one of these characters that's the first appearance is in Kanan the Last Padawan, number 1. Will be in an MCU movie in the next, thinking long term. I'm not sure of any sort of imminent rumors or anything, but yeah, Kanan the Last Padawan, number 1, my second top pick. Third top pick, and yeah, I sort of mentioned this one just kind of, I think, in the last few days here, really realizing that I should grab this one. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 95, the SDCC variant. I'm hoping to get it in the blue label. You know, I don't mind the, you know, Eastman signed books or anything like that, but Kevin Eastman does do a lot of signings. So you almost see this book more in the signature series than the blue label. Although I think there is more blue labels on the census, but you still see a lot of signature series up for sale and not too many blue labels. So hopefully I'd be patient and get this, the SD San Diego Comic-Con variant of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 95. Hopefully closer to like 350. Maybe if I get really lucky, under 350. But I think I would pay that price for, yeah, the sort of really rare variant when Jennika becomes a Ninja Turtle. Yeah, I think it's a cool book. But it was really hard to just choose. Like, I mean, Captain America #6, Tale of the Teen Titans 44, like Amazing Spider-Man 210. Those are just classic books, too, that if they popped up from a favorite seller and I thought I could get a deal on them, I would definitely go after them. Alright, so definitely let me know in the comments below, what do you think I should buy out of sort of my list of 6, and then, yeah, you can even let me know a couple books that maybe you have in mind that you think would kind of fit into my collection too. That'd be great too, and I'll be looking out for the comments in the next couple days for sure. But thanks so much for watching today. I really appreciate it. If you haven't already, I would invite you to join the team and subscribe to Team CGC 9.8. And yeah, I'd love to have you on our comic book collecting and comic book investing team. Hit the bell for all the latest notifications. Add me on Instagram and Twitter too. I'll have all the links in the description below for all that. Alright, but yeah, cool video today. I think a little bit different than doing like a want list video. Just kind of, you know, get a couple books out and kind of get the opinion from the team on some of the books that I should buy next. I think is a decent idea. So yeah, thanks so much for watching. Appreciate all the support so much. Message me on Instagram too if you have any questions. That's probably the easiest way to kind of get a hold of me and ask me a question. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you on the next one.